Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Thursday's show. On the satellite imagery here way out to the west, Kamchatka Peninsula right there. Next storm just east of Japan there, that's going to be moving up toward the western Aleutians, bringing storm force winds into that area tomorrow into the afternoon. And then that low center will slide eastward just south of the chain here and get to about the central Aleutians and then start pulling off to the southeast later on in the weekend, probably around Sunday there. And so there'll be some rain and wind, at least to start with, but only affecting the central and western Aleutians the way it looks right now. We have this system here bringing the gusty winds and rain into the eastern Aleutians today, with that moisture spreading northward through the Bering Sea. A little bit of a break here over the Alaska Peninsula. Some breezy winds though, especially toward Kodiak Island on the other side. There we can see the rain, or the clouds that produced the rain there across Kodiak today. About 1.07 inches falling in 24 hours there at the state airport at Kodiak, and then lighter amounts here as you head east, about a third of an inch, same time period falling at Seward, and the heaviest rain pulling up to the northwest, but that mixes with snow over the inland areas and then areas of light snow or flurries here on the outer edge of that cloud mass. There a break here over the Yukon Delta up into the interior as this band of moisture pulls off to the north and northwest. You can see right in this area here, you can see that pulling back to the west at about about half an inch of snow falling in Nome today, and about 12 inches on the ground now, and that area of light snow extending across the Koyukuk Valley. Bettles picked up about half an inch of snow as well today, and that will had lifted north. That fell earlier today there, and it ended this afternoon. And some light stuff off to the east there into the Brooks Range. Also on the Arctic coast up in that area. Not a bad day over the southeast coast. In fact, just clouds here from about Cordova on over, and then you got into some dry conditions there with northeast winds of 10 to 20 miles an hour, though some areas over the inside waters here are pretty gusty. Cape Decision seeing gusts up over 40 miles an hour at times, but generally not too bad as far as the winds went there, just those channeled areas. And dry conditions though, just a few clouds and a lot of disorganized clouds out in the Gulf of Alaska. Rolling this, well, going to today's chart, see some clear skies trying to push down toward the eastern Arctic coast there, but in between that band of clouds and flurries and patchy fog up there, and then this trough here along the Brooks Range and the flurries with that, it gets a little bit heavier here, Kotzebue Sound, right through the Bering Strait, on down into the Bering Sea, hits the warmer temperatures, mixes with rain by the time you get into the St. Matthew Island area and on to the south. A break here over Bristol Bay with that low center southwest of Kodiak Island, and the warm front bringing some pretty gusty winds as high as 50 miles an hour at Augustine Island. So we had gale force winds there from Kamishak Bay back across the Barren Islands, and some breezy conditions along the North Gulf Coast with both the rain and wind let up as you headed over toward Prince William Sound, and just a few showers here on the east side, not much at all. And again, the breaks, high pressure over western Canada, northwest Canada here, keeping it dry, those northeast winds going in that area there. And here's the system out here over the Bering Sea that's bringing those 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts into areas of the eastern Aleutians, along with some rain, and a very weak front bringing some light rain in towards Shemya. And for tonight, we'll see that front continues to, well, not move much out there. May get past the Attu Island area, but This one will pull off to the southeast, and rain, wind will diminish there over the eastern Aleutians, become a little more northeasterly with time. A weak low backs into Bristol Bay, so gale force winds, Kodiak Island tonight, on up into the Barrens and Kamishak Bay areas. You can see really dropping off behind the front there, just about no gradient at all behind the front until you get down to that next one. A little bit of moisture showing up. Montague Island may slip on up into western Prince William Sound, but it probably will stay south of Passage Canal, and just variable clouds in over Cook Inlet and Matanuska-Susitna Valley areas. Got a narrow band of some light flurries up here over the interior that's gradually lifting northward as well. The other band now just about out of the picture and off the coast and dissipated. And this one here really not going to lay down much snow, but it'll kind of hold together as it lifts northward over the next couple of days. Dry, fair, and cool here again tonight. Breezy conditions over the southeast coast. And then for tomorrow, look for the clouds to increase as the front rotates up toward the coastline, although it looks like most of the moisture will stay along and offshore, just kind of grazing the coastline here in areas down to the south, a little more vulnerable to seeing some precipitation of the measurable varieties, either of mixed rain or snow. Of course, snow or rain down at sea level, and Prince of Wales Island mostly in the form of rain, but either way the amounts will be quite light. And also along the North Gulf Coast, looks like the bulk of the moisture will stay to the south, although that'll catch an easterly flow, catch the southern Kenai Peninsula with some rain and snow. Rain again, Kodiak Island, but a little less on the winds tomorrow. And this whole low pressure area, all that moisture spilling into Bristol Bay. Temperatures will be warm enough for just about all rain across Bristol Bay. More of a mixed condition here into the Kuskokwim Delta, and a little more spottier, but still some mixed rain or snow showers there up across the Yukon Delta, but amounts quite light. And that narrow band of flurries now from about Eagle here back out to the west and to the southwest, but to the north, pretty good conditions there. Fair, a little breezy out here along the northwest areas, but dry conditions, North Slope and the Brooks Range. Even the Arctic coast looking really good. Probably less in the way of flurries tomorrow than what you saw today. And not a lot going on out here over the Bering Sea. Basically high pressure, but there is a trough stuck in that area there, kind of a remnants of an old frontal boundary. But should be a pretty nice day with light winds for the Pribilofs tomorrow. A few scattered showers, eastern Aleutians, and that's the storm that'll be bringing the storm force winds, first starting out as gales, but should pick up to sustained east-southeasterlies at about 50 knots there for the far western Aleutians marine zones out in that area. Not too bad though, Adak and Atka under high pressure. Winds won't get into that area until probably tomorrow night and early Saturday. You can see the system begins to pull off to the east and southeast, and Sunday probably be off to the southeast, and that's going to keep the southeast flow continuing here for the Gulf of Alaska right up to the North Gulf Coast. And we've got one dissipating frontal boundary here coming up tomorrow, or on Saturday, for occasional rain continuing for the coastal areas. Kodiak Island looks wet, but it won't be all that heavy, although another system and more moisture rolling in late Saturday and Saturday night. But rain chances better now for the southeast coast, starting out mixed rain and snow in some areas, especially over the northern portions there. That transition with the milder air moving northward, starting out as snow and then changing over to mixed rain or snow, just rain here along the coastal areas. High pressure beginning to slide off there into British Columbia and weaken, and some of this moisture will work its way inland. Could be some areas of light snow in over the Copper River Basin, especially the southern slopes of the Alaska Range there, but that's about as far north as it'll get. Just some variable clouds, still some flurries, mostly over the Yukon Valley. And the Arctic coast could pick up the winds a little bit on Saturday over what you'll see tomorrow, especially on the east side here. Could see possible small craft advisories. Otherwise 10 to 15, and then picking up again here as you get southwest of Point Lane, the Cape Lisburne, Point Hope areas, and some mixed rain and snow over the Bering Sea. Basically easterly waves here. All this heading westward and then dropping off to the southwest with the main low centers south of the Alaska Peninsula. So there'll be some showers and mild temperatures over the southern Bering Sea. So rain, occasional rain, Not all that heavy though for the Alaska or for the Adak and Atka areas, more showery towards Shemya. And look at the temperatures at 4 o'clock this afternoon, mostly in the mid-20s to lower to mid-30s, in some cases upper 30s at 37 there at Klawock, 31 at Petersburg, and a 36 Elfin Cove, 29 at Juneau this afternoon, 32 over at Cordova, -4 Gulkana, but into the upper 20s Northern Cook Inlet at 29, at Anchorage 27 Talkeetna, now 31 Kenai. Quite a bit warmer down at Homer with 42 degrees. If we get a little rain in the last 24 hours, excuse me, mid-40s Kodiak Island. Again, that's where the heaviest rainfall occurred there, up in toward Kamishak Bay, Iliamna, and those areas. Some light snow in Sparavon, 33 degrees. But north and west of the mountains, they're a lot colder, -9 at Fairbanks, 15 below at Eagle, and 3 above Fort Yukon, 12 at Bettles, -2 Arctic Village, and just inland, away from the Arctic coast on the North Slope, temperatures 10 to 15 below zero, -1 at Kaktovik, 2 above at Barrow, 24 at Kotzebue, 25 at Buckland, 17 out there at Teller, and a 28 in Nome. Otherwise, upper teens to lower 20s over the Yukon Kuskokwim Delta, 23 at Bethel, 30 degrees Savunga. And heading out to the west, looks like upper 30s out here for the Aleutians and Pribilofs, 34 at Shemya, 41 on Alaska there under milder southeast flow, and upper 30s to lower 40s for the peninsula with 39 at King Salmon. Lows for tonight, not much lower, staying above freezing over northeast Bristol Bay, as well as the peninsula here and even the Bering Sea and all of the Aleutians. Upper teens to near 30 here for the southeast areas, and the Copper River Basin below zero, of course, otherwise 20s. South central Alaska back into the southwest interior, below zero North Slope and areas of the Arctic coast, with a little above zero to 10 to 15 above here for the central interior, mildest out toward Norton Sound. And the highs tomorrow, again, contrasted from northeast to southwest, so they start out 10 to 15 below up there over the eastern Brooks Range and North Slope areas, to 35 to 40 above zero here for the Bering Sea and Aleutians. Otherwise, 30s to mid-40s for the southeast coast. Flying weather, not too bad. Again, some areas of marginal VFR along the panhandle here, especially over the south. I think the IFR will stay off the coast there, but that flow is going to carry it right up to the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula, down to Kodiak Island along the southeast slopes of the Aleutian Range. But looking pretty good here over the interior, kind of with that band of moisture. Could be some areas of marginal VFR here over the interior, again, lifting northward throughout the day, and some leftover stuff on the southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range. And lower conditions here, moisture pulling westward, IFR possibly from all around Dillingham, across Togiak Bay out to Cape Newenham. Otherwise, really hit and miss out here over the Bering Sea, which means some areas of VFR and IFR as that next storm comes into the far west. Passes, Anaktuvik, both Anaktuvik and Adigan starting out marginal, but becoming VFR by afternoon for both passes there. Lake Clark and Merrill look pretty good, VFR, although could start out with some marginal VFR on the eastern entrances of both these passes in the morning, and that'll become VFR by midday. And for Rainy, marginal VFR becoming VFR, and if it is marginal, it'll be on the eastern approach. And for Windy, could see some marginal VFR on the southern entrance there tomorrow morning, but that should become VFR by noontime or probably late morning. Isabel looking good, Mentasta VFR, and Tanita VFR. Portage VFR, eastern entrance here could become marginal late in the day, or could go either way throughout the entire day on Friday. Chilkoot and White should be VFR. Looking at the freezing levels here, the milder air pulling the surface almost up to St. Lawrence Island, then right in over northern Bristol Bay, and 2,000 feet from the Aleutians up along the coast across Kodiak Island there, with a little bit milder conditions in over the southern Panhandle and the Queen Charlottes. Icing threats, just a slight risk here through the central interior from roughly the Eagle area back out toward Norton Sound. Really hit and miss here. Bristol Bay, that's mostly this moisture coming westward there, spilling into that area, but below 11,000 feet of the isolated moderate rime varieties there for Kodiak Island on out into the Gulf, and it should stay off the coast of the North Gulf Coast and Panhandle. Bering Sea pretty well icing free, except with the moisture coming in with that next storm that's bringing these storm force winds. And the upper level wind flow chart showing the Arctic jet here just catching the extreme east side there of the Arctic coast, otherwise high pressure and not much wind flow at this level. One jet here 40 to 70 knots, and the main Pacific jet well to the south, although it is arcing up here ahead of that next storm up toward the western and central Aleutians. 9,000 feet, easterlies 30 to 40 knots here across the Gulf of Alaska into the southwest interior, but much lighter up over the northern areas, a little brisker out over the northern Bering Sea in the western areas. 15 increasing to 30 knots up there along the Arctic coast. High pressure through this area, and then that storm southeast 30 to 60 knot winds coming into the western Aleutians. 3,000 feet, east-southeast 55 knots there for the western Aleutians, but much lighter off to the east. Low pressure, Bristol Bay, and that southeast wind 30 to 40 knots there from Barren Islands right up across Kamishak Bay from Kodiak Island, and a pretty good fetch of easterlies at about 30 knots from the central interior right out into the northern Bering Sea, extending up across the Kivalina, Point Hope, and Cape Lisburne areas, but lighter on off to the east. And turbulence, again, about below 6,000 to 8,000 feet, moderate chop here in the turquoise areas, especially over the mountainous terrain, be the roughest. Aleutian Range, Cobourg Mountains, back off the coast there, but maybe into the southern southeast coast. Could be a little bumpy up over the central interior, Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island, as well as the area from Point Lay on down toward Point Hope. But the heavier stuff, severe, approaching the western Aleutians there during the day, mostly below 5,000 feet. And after hangar flying, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
UFO alert and moon of the short shadows. Hey there, stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Plot Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida. Get ready for a UFO to appear in the western sky just after sunset over the next week or so.
And I'm Dean Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory. We're here to help you find your way around the sky tonight. And look for the unusual full moon of December, which occurs this Saturday, the 6th. Let's show you.
Now, many civilizations have names for each full moon, because each full moon represents something peculiar or special to them. For instance, we all know that the harvest moon was so named because it came at the traditional time of harvest in mid-European latitudes.
Conversely, the full moon of May was called the planting moon. So, what do you think the full moon of December should be called?
The Christmas moon?
The long underwear moon?
Ooh, perhaps we should call it the plastic moon for all the overextended credit cards at this time of year.
No, it's not called any of those names. Although Christmas moon is close, because one of the names for the full moon of December is the moon before Yule, which is very appropriate.
But equally appropriate is one of its other names, the long night moon, because it occurs so close to the winter solstice, the first day of winter. We all know that on the winter solstice, days are shortest and nights are longest, so long night moon.
And this weekend also marks the time of the year when we have the earliest sunsets. But I think we could give this moon yet another name, which would further describe its uniqueness, the moon of the short shadows. Let's explain.
Okay, let's set our skies up for the third week of June, the first day of summer, the summer solstice. And if we could speed up time and dim the sun down so we could watch it all day, we would see that from sunrise to sunset, it takes an extremely high path across the sky.
But if we watch the full moon of June all night long from moonrise to moonset, we would notice that it takes an extremely low path across the sky. In fact, the full moon closest to the summer solstice is the lowest riding full moon of the year.
And if you've ever been outside under the full moon of June, far from city lights, You've probably noticed that the June full moon casts very long shadows. In fact, I remember as a teenager walking along the beach under a June moon and watching my long shadow stretch way out in front of me.
So we have a situation in summer where the summer sun rides high across the sky, but the summer full moon rides low. And guess what?
You've got it. Just the opposite occurs at the winter solstice. At the winter solstice, the sun takes an extremely low path across the sky, and the full moon takes a very high one. Indeed, the highest path of any full moon of the year, which makes everybody's shadow short, extremely short. If you don't believe me, see for yourself.
Go outside this weekend around midnight when the moon is at its very highest and see just how short your moon shadow really is. And do you know why we can see the full moon longer in winter than we can in summer? Simple. Nights are longer in winter.
And what about that UFO we were talking about earlier?
UFO. Oh yeah, that's right. Look southwest just after sunset over the next week or so, and a shiny bright light that wasn't there last week is going to pop into view.
In fact, if you look carefully and block out the sun, you may see it even before sunset. It's not really a UFO. The brilliant planet Venus is coming back into view from the far side of its orbit around the sun and climbing higher into the evening sky. Venus spent most of this past year in the morning sky, remember?
And the red planet Mars is still over there in the west, well above Venus. So keep your eyes peeled for a strange light that will appear in the west after sunset.
And get outside some night this weekend when the full moon will be at its highest for the year and your moon shadow will be at its shortest. Isn't it fun to keep looking up?
Welcome back. Look at the ice here. Big open area yet up into the Chukchi Sea, but persistent east and northeast winds. Looks like over the next several days that should push southwest about the ice edge 20 to 40 or 45 nautical miles from its position today to where it'll be Monday afternoon, and it'll be a little slower down here over the southern areas. Otherwise, for the forecasts, southeast 20 knots, could be small craft advisories up along the north coast tomorrow, and northerlies to southeasterlies 20 knots or less over the inside waters. And for Saturday, north to northeast 25 knots there, Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, and possible small craft advisories down here over the southern inside waters, otherwise easterlies 15 to 20. And for the Kodiak Island area, gales tonight coming down to about 30 knots, all areas here, Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, Shelikof Strait, and the zones on the east side of Kodiak Island. Otherwise, small craft advisories of the 25 knot variety here for the North Gulf Coast, northeast 20, Prince William Sound, and winds diminishing as you head up Cook Inlet, north of the Forelands, 15 to 20 knots. Then for Saturday, northeast 15, same sort of pattern here. Small craft advisories from the Forelands all the way down across Shelikof Strait, and bring the gales back here for Kodiak Island on the east side up across the Barrens into the western Gulf Coast. East about 30 there in that marine zone that Middleton Island's in. Prince William Sound, northeast 20. Bristol Bay, east at 20, northeast 15 on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, northeast 15 also on the Pacific side right up toward Sitkinak. And then those should pick up, bring the gale force winds back in southwest of Kodiak there. And also Bristol Bay here could see easterlies at 35 knots on Saturday, but lighter off to the west, small craft advisories, and 20 knots on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Out in the Aleutians tomorrow, those storm force winds coming in, gales late tonight become storm force by earliest late morning tomorrow, definitely by afternoon, 50 knots, gales just to the east, but Adak and Atka a little slower to come up, starting to feel the effect late tomorrow, and then lighter winds for the Fox Islands. And those winds drop off, become northerly on the backside of that system as it heads off to the east and southeast. And gales now are just small craft advisories from the east and northeast, from AKwx all the way over to on Alaska. Southwest coast, east to northeast, or really east 25 knots, south of Nunivak Island, and then northeasterlies up to 30 knots. Strongest winds right through here, 25 to 30 knots. Heavy freezing spray for St. Lawrence Island, lighter northerlies for the Pribilofs, and light easterlies for Saturday, and northeast 25 to 30 knots, small craft advisory, heavy freezing spray through Saturday for the St. Lawrence Island area, and some of that freezing spray condition will get down into the northern Bering. For Friday, tomorrow, Arctic coast, easterlies 10 to 15 knots, brisk wind advisories with heavy freezing spray in the open water areas here for the west. And then for Saturday, 20 to 30 knot winds here on the west side, strongest Cape Lisburne, Point Hope in that area, but just 10 knots. Could pick up 20, 25 knots on the extreme east end. For tonight, again, rain continues, rain and windy here, Kodiak Island. Some of that spilling into Bristol Bay, and areas of rain or snow here over the southwest interior. Fair to the northwest and staying dry and cool there, Copper River Basin and across the Panhandle with some gusty winds. Damp conditions out here to the west in the Bering Sea. It looks like a front will try to work up toward the coast tomorrow, actually pulling back this way. So just grazing the coastline with some moisture. Stays heaviest here, Kenai Peninsula down across Kodiak, again into Bristol Bay. Variable clouds, a few flurries over the interior, and there's that next storm bringing the storms in on tomorrow. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.